of December 1956, Barbara and Patricia Grimes caught the bus to the theater in Brighton Park, on the southwest side of Chicago, Illinois, wanting to see the newest Elvis Presley picture. What came next was one of the largest missing persons cases in Cook County history, and a lesson in investigation handling. It was a few days after Christmas and Barbara, 15, and Patricia, 13, wanted to go to the theater with money they had saved up. Both girls loved Elvis Presley and wanted to see Love Me Tender again. Having promised their mother, Loretta, they would be home before midnight, the sisters boarded the bus from their home in McKinley Park to the Brighton Theater, and bought their $1.50 tickets for the double feature. They were seen by their friend, Dorothy Wynant, during the concession buying popcorn, waiting for the second film to start. The girls were never late, so when midnight came and went, Loretta sent another two of her children to the bus stop to see if the girls were on their way home. By 2 a.m. the sisters still hadn't arrived back on one of the several buses that had stopped. It was out of character for the girls not to come home, so Loretta called the police in the early hours of the 29th of December, telling them that her daughters were missing. Initially, the police believed the girls had run away, so their investigation was not as urgent. Because of their love for Elvis Presley, investigators thought the sisters may have caught a bus to Nashville to meet their idol. When the news of the missing sisters went national, Elvis Presley caught wind of the story and made a televised plea for the girls to return home on the 19th of January. Door canvassing began in Brighton Park, with 15,000 flyers distributed. Canals and rivers were searched, and a reward was put up by the Grimes local church for information. More than 300,000 people were questioned, and 2,000 of them were interrogated. The case spiraled out of control, and Loretta was no closer to finding her daughters. The trail had run cold. On the 22nd of January 1957, almost a month after their disappearance, Leonard Prescott was driving down German Church Road, Willow Springs, some 16 miles from the girls' home in McKinley Park, when he noticed something beyond the barrier on the verge by Devil's Creek. Thinking what he had seen were only mannequins, he continued to drive, but as he approached home he began to doubt what he had seen. Prescott picked up his wife from their house, turned the car around, and headed back to the spot where he had seen the mannequins. Patricia and Barbara's bodies lay in the fallen snow. Their bodies were naked and frozen stiff. It was not until the next day that the sisters were examined, as their bodies needed to thaw. Reports showed that Barbara had wounds that looked like rodent bites, and others that were puncture wounds. She also had blunt force trauma to her face and head. The pathologists believed she had also had intercourse around the time of her death. Patricia had bruises to her face and body. There were no drugs, alcohol or poison in their systems, and their stomach contents were found to include popcorn, and the dinner they had eaten on the 28th of December, indicating that they had died approximately 5 hours after leaving the movie theater. However, the 3 independent pathologists who completed their autopsies could not agree on the cause or time of death. Harry Gloss, the chief investigator for the Cook County Coroner's Office, believed that the sisters had been held captive and killed closer to their date of discovery. He believed that they had been kept alive until at least the 7th of January, when they had been left by Devil's Creek, alive. However, coroner, Walter McCarran, believed that the girls had been lying near Devil's Creek for weeks due to the snowfall, as their bodies were in good condition. The snowfall had started on the 9th of January, 3 weeks prior, and had started to rapidly melt a few days before they were discovered. McCarran's theory indicates that the girls could have been killed immediately, and then stored elsewhere before being left at the roadside. Whatever the theories, the death certificates for both girls would eventually read their cause of death as murder and secondary shock. Suspect number 1 was named Edward Bedwell, better known as Benny. Bedwell was a 21-year-old drifter who worked odd jobs throughout the Chicago area. At the time of the girls' disappearance, Benny was working part-time as a dishwasher at a restaurant in Chicago. According to the owners of the restaurant, he and another man had been at the restaurant with two girls who resembled the Grimes sisters on the morning of the 30th of December. The owners contacted the police on the 24th of January, and Bedwell was arrested and interrogated for 3 days. Bedwell was charged with the sisters' murders on the 27th of January 1957. He signed a 14-page confession, where he claimed that he and the other man, William Cole Willingham, had been in the company of the sisters that night up until the 7th of January, and had frequented many of the Skid Row bars in the area. He said that they had fed the sisters hot dogs, and then beaten them to death, leaving their bodies at the side of the road. But things weren't adding up. There were no hot dogs or alcohol found in either of the sisters' stomachs during the autopsy. Nor were the girls beaten to death. On visiting bars with Bedwell and Willingham, Loretta Grimes was quoted saying, "It's a lie. My girls wouldn't be on West Madison Street. They didn't even know where it was." William Willingham did admit to being with Bedwell and two girls on the 30th of December, but denied that these girls were the Grimes sisters, and refuted any involvement in a murder. Bedwell later recanted his confession, stating that he had been remanded for 3 days, and was told that if he confessed, they would let him go. Bedwell had also clocked in at another of his jobs at Ajax Consolidated Company, which placed him at work when the girls were likely abducted. Suspect number 2 was Kranz, who was a steamfitter and self-declared psychic, who experienced a vision of the two girls after a night of drinking. The 53-year-old called the police complaint room on the 15th of January and told an operator that the sisters were dead and their bodies could be found in Lyons Township. Kranz wouldn't give his name to the operator, but the call was traced to near to his home. Kranz's vision of the girls was near to the truth, and when their bodies were found a week later, they were only around a mile away from his estimation. The police also suspected him for a ransom note, which had been sent to Loretta Grimes. Handwriting experts confirmed that he may have written the note, but Kranz denied involvement during numerous interrogations. He was eventually released without charge. Suspect number 3 was Fleig, who was a 17-year-old also under suspicion for the sisters' murders. Due to his age and Illinois laws, he was not allowed to undertake a polygraph test. However, Captain Ralph Patak convinced Fleig to do it anyway. He subsequently confessed to the murders, but because the test wasn't legal, he could not be charged. He was released due to a lack of evidence, but was later jailed for the murder of another young woman. Loretta Grimes applauded police efforts, and cited that she did not agree with age restrictions on polygraph tests. Suspect number 4 was Charles Melquist. Cold case detectives have been looking at Melquist, a confessed child killer, who was responsible for the murder of Bonnie Lee Scott in 1957. That year, Loretta Grimes received an anonymous phone call stating the caller was the one who undressed her girls. He also told Loretta that one of the girls had deformed toes that crossed over each other. This was a fact that had not been public knowledge. On the same night in which the newspapers were reporting on Bonnie Lee Scott's discovered body, Loretta received another anonymous call stating he got away with another one, and that the police would not be able to pin this on him. Bonnie's remains were discovered less than a mile from the Grimes sisters, and she was also found nude. Melquist only served 8 years of his 99-year sentence before he died. The case remains open to this day, and the killer has never been caught.